I have on the last podcast talked about using these new AI bots, and literally every minute of every day, from waking up and looking at my phone to I've been up till midnight every day, and like up at 6 and just non-stop between trying to do day-to-day work stuff on this thing with my laptop on one side, building and building software platforms. And I am absolutely sure, absolutely sure, that I have built the best in class ever sales tool, because there's no other way to make it better, because there's sales is a fairly straightforward transaction. It's close from lead inbound close. There are certain toolkits you need to be able to do that job to the best of your ability, beyond just the rep being good at doing it themselves. And because of how good AI is at synthesizing data and being plugged into various data pools we have, like our CRMs and email correspondence and other things, and then re-pulling that into profiling and then timeline durations and recommended updates and reignition emails and things like that, and drafting those things with full context parables around the correspondence that's happened, helping aid the sales rep to follow up as quick as possible, as sharp as possible, and enabling them to see their pipeline in extrapolations and views and graphs and timelines that are so intuitive that they know exactly what they're doing and how to be the most effective at sweating their pipeline, and ultimately doing the best job of helping the client get over the line. That is the toolkit they need. And I've built it, and it is insanely, insanely good. And it's going to literally, within 1 week of building this thing, it's going to give 30 to 40% of our reps time back, like straight away. It's going to give them that time back, but their output is probably going to 3-4x, just based on how much they'll be able to follow up and keep on top of their pipeline, to a point where we'll just be able to give them more leads. So the disproportionate impact of this technology in 1 week of application for me is going to be huge. And we've also, whilst I've been building this one, Matt's been on the other computer with the other bot, building a refurbs project management tool, smart, bot enabled, in and out, start to finish project management, Gantt charts, procurement reporting, scopes, pricing, materials, subcontractor framework agreements, everything all built into this tool within 2 weeks, because he started building it the first week on Replit. The bot came out, we retransitioned it onto the bot account, and last week's been building it this way. And it's a phenomenal tool. And we're going to sack off Monday. We're going to build a hive mind system that I've spoke about before, for years, that I was like, the second AI is there, we're going to build a complete hive mind system that has syntax in every part of the business and pulls data in and pulls comms in to make everyone's lives more efficient. Every single person in the company is going to have their own bot, their own workspace and dashboard within that hive mind, where they can see and have context between every other department and the clients, and make sure information flows are clean, and make sure that they're prompted to do work that they otherwise may not have intuitively thought of, and enabling AI to help staff do much more and do a much better job, and to ultimately save us money. So as a business, we're building that moat and we're protecting ourselves. And I'm also going to add a functionality that maybe is a little bit left of field. You might not necessarily think about this intuitively, but I'm going to make sure that that relationship between the staff member and the bot and the AI is not just a Pandora's box of, it just helps me loads on this and this and that, but I'm not entirely sure what it does. I've built profiling and widgets and context and bios between the bot and the bot and the staff member, so that the staff member can see how much the bot knows them. Does it know what football team they like? Does it know what their morning and evening habits are? Does it know where they went to school and how they grew up and things like that? Because that context is actually really important to help the bot understand them more, to become more of a companion to them. Not that I want them to think that the bot's their friend, but I want them to think that it's the best PA they could ever have. And the more it knows about them, and Jack, you can attest to this, the more your PA knows about you, the more they can help you, the more they know your habits, the way you like doing things, the way you like writing things, and all those kind of things. So I want to build a visual of that within their profiles, and I've already started it, and it looks great. And it means that they can be prompted to go, and the bot can go, look, I don't actually know anything about your interests. And then they can insert their interests and help the bot. And for the sales guys, that's great, because then that can help disseminate rapport building exercises and information and stuff like that as well as for staff members. So there's so much, and that will help from a HR perspective as well, so there's just so much that this toolkit can do. It is insane. What do you need to set it up? You need a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio. You need to get an OpenClaw account. Then you need to set up a couple other bits, and you can go subscribe to an Anthropic. I'd suggest using Anthropic, which is the AI provider, if you like. I'm going to try and make these terminologies as simple as possible so you can understand. You've got the hardware, which is the Apple computer, which is the Mac Mini or the Mac Studio. That's the hardware. And then you're obviously plugged into the internet. You get OpenClaw, which is the tool that is going to enable the bot to live within your computer and within your workspaces. And then you use the compute power you're going to get from Anthropic, which you pay credits for. And that charges, that like gives the energy to your OpenClaw that then lives on your computer. And then you also have to do a few, little techie bits to like log into stuff and give it permissions. But bear in mind, you can ask ClaudeBot on Anthropic how to do those things when you're setting it up. So the first thing you can do is set up a ClaudeBot account on Anthropic's website, which is just like ChatGPT. And you can go, I am going to set up my own bot account on a Mac Mini. Can you help me with the setup? Where do I start? And just follow the instructions like you would an instruction manual. If you don't understand anything, go, can you make that simpler for a layman to understand? This is basically what we did to set it up and build it. And then we built it. And then from there, it's then on your own initiative to dig into the weeds. And I've just been watching podcasts, videos, nerds online talking about all this kind of stuff, testing and trialing things with the bot, asking it loads of questions. And you just learn like anything else. You just learn the new skill sets. But the upside is phenomenal. Like, I wish I could show you the sales portal that I've built, but it's obviously got sensitive information on it, so I can't show that publicly. But it's four sub pages, and within those four sub pages, it's everything a rep needs in the exact way that rep would want that functionality to work to make their life the easiest possible. And it is insane, and I'm going to keep doing it. And we've got a 6-month plan. We've got our AI software developer plugged in. I've got another meeting with him today. He's plugged into the back end to help make it more stable and secure and make sure that we've got the guardrails in there as me and Matt are in build mode, analyzing and speaking to staff members in the business, looking at their processes, their workflows, the different softwares we use, pulling those API keys, trying to make those things proprietary. The sales guys now no longer need Monday.com, so they're going to pull them off Monday, and I'll keep pulling everyone off of Monday and build proprietary systems as we go so that we own the tech, we own the IP, we control the data, and it's a malleable system that we can build exactly to our use case. And it's going to be, this is the game in 2026, ladies and gents. If you don't build something and you don't use these toolkits to build something that is the best enabler for you and your staff, you're just missing a huge trick. Property developers generally should be pretty sound, but if you're in SaaS or you're in some service-based business that generally does a lot of work through a laptop and you don't do this, I just think you get eaten alive by competitors who do. And eventually developers will get eaten by the same thing as well. But we might have a little bit more time in our industry because there's a lot of analog things you've got to do in our sector. But a lot of those can be enabled and helped through this kind of technology. So that's what I'd say. Now, Jack, bear in mind that context. What would you look at in your businesses? You've got XP, you've got Central Suites, you've got obviously the main dev business. What would applications be that you think would be like a huge enabler? What's the lowest hanging fruit that you would want to use something like this for?
For everyone to have assistance in like the admin side of the work. So like typically, like for an example, our project manager, a huge amount of his work is admin. And he's not cheap. So he's a high cost per hour employee. And that's because there's high value there. But if you could eradicate a lot of his admin, potentially so for an example, we do an internship program every summer where Reading University basically provide us with some interns that we take through the summer program. We've actually hired some off the back of it. Sad for the interns, but this bot could be that intern for one setup fee and time and allocation, but then not have any sick days, operate while you're not operating, be more consistent with understanding you, have better work longevity because a bot doesn't leave your company for another company for more money, or hopefully we're not going to be in that space for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, how crazy is that? If you built a bot so good that they then get offered a job somewhere else and they take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea for a recruitment business, like headhunt bots. And there'll probably be companies out there that do exactly what you've done and charge a fee to set you up. So you just go, hi, Ryan, I need a bot for this.
I mean, I could take the tool I've built. I could go to any sales company, like any company that does sales, and go, look at this, and they'll bite my arm off for it because I'm showing a PE company today. A friend of mine runs a PE company in London, and I know his type of sales and what he does. And I'm sitting down with his tech team, later on to show them what I've built. And because I briefly explained it to him, and he went, "Fucking hell, mate. Yeah, go on, let's have a look at that." And every company could do, and I could license it, sell it, do things like that. But just as quickly as I do that, other people could also just go and make it. So to me, I want to use it as an enabler and use it as my advantage in the space to get ahead of competition rather than the money I could make licensing it. But you're right, though. You could do that.
What other lower hanging fruit is there? Like lettings, surely there's like systemization and management there. Like we have people in the team that can go to the property and help people with their particular issues. But if we had a bot look at every communication we've ever had with a tenant and then basically be the heart and soul of lettings, so outreach, inreach, dealing with problems, managing problems, and then only pushing the cream of the problems, the bigger problems, the unsolvable problems, because they're not physically able to drive to the property and fix that issue. Lettings, I think there's easy wins.
What about sourcing and appraising sites?
Sourcing and appraising sites for sure. I mean, it's all. I think the easiest wins are all the things that you would give to a virtual assistant. Is the easiest way to summarize it. If you think about your business and think, what could I give a VA? I mean, VAs have been around for ages, whether they're South African, Filipino, whatever location your typical virtual assistant might be in. There's virtual assistants in the UK people that work as VAs for other businesses. If you think to yourself, what is a VA job? That would be a good one. Bookkeeping, HR, tax management, personal life management, diarising. I mean, it does. The list goes on, Ryan.
Yeah, it does.
And like you say, the job is getting more digital, right? So every role, like my dad still doesn't understand. He's an old builder. He still doesn't understand how I can build a development company with a laptop. He's like, what the fuck can you do with that? I can.
Yeah.
You know, he just doesn't understand that, and that's generational change.
But why, Jack? Why is it? And the fundamental reason why a laptop can do it, and for most industries it's true now as well, is because intelligence, that, and not necessarily human intelligence, but obviously that's important as well, but the intelligence in the machines and their ability to disseminate information and to extrapolate in certain ways and to be that useful to you with this different software tools and applications that are out there, you can simply do so much more from a laptop than you can by going to meetings and trying to do those things in person. Now plug AI into that thing and it's just a massive accelerator for that very thing that your dad's kind of referring to. And the same way your dad looks at you and goes, what can you do on that laptop? That's the same thing that people are now going to do to people who use a laptop and are not using a bot. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be the same kind of principle where why would you not be using a bot like a 24/7 assistant, you know?
The crazy thing looking back at like the generational gap is back in the days when my dad was a business owner, the whole world moved slower, right? The whole world didn't have digital frictionless movement. You couldn't do a Teams meeting. You'd have to drive there, meet them, drive back. So there was less time in the day. There was less efficiency. So the whole world moved slower. So to take a really macro lens at this, you could stay doing the same things that you've been doing without the support of digital AI, whatever it may be, but you're now moving slower than the market. My dad was probably moving quicker than the market because he was a successful business owner. But if he was dropped into business now, he would be the slowest business owner because he wouldn't do Zoom calls. He wouldn't use a laptop. He would do everything physically and on the phone, drive there, drive back. And he has a massive disadvantage. So what you're alluding to and encouraging listeners to look at is how can you be at the head of the game, the fastest mover in the market, the most efficient, the most dynamic, because it's there for everyone to have a go at. And if you're not doing it now, you're going to be slower. Well, you're slower adoption, and the growth curve is. I love the phrase: if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards, which is completely true because everything else is going forward.
And it's worth mentioning that these things aren't cheap for now. They're very cheap relative to the upside. But if you are an SME, like if you're a small business owner and you've got to be cautious of cash flow, then I'll give you an example of how much it's costing. We've got 2 bots up and running. Me and Matt every day, pretty much flat out, are building and building and building. And it's going to cost us. It'll cost us about $8,000, $9,000 a month in compute. That's what that will cost us. The setup is about $3,000 to $5,000 for the hardware, which is a one-off cost. So $3,000-5,000 set you up. The cost of the compute that you pay for in credits to Anthropic, so for the intelligence, it will cost us about $8,000 a month. If we were just running one, then it costs $4,000 a month, because it's about $2,000, about $4,000 a piece, $1,000 a week. But once you've built it, once you've built an application and then your team's using it, then the costs massively come down, because you can localize a lot of the work onto your computer. So you need the best spots on the market, which are stuck through API walls, i.e., you've got to pay another company to use that intelligence. But as that intelligence keeps moving up and gets better, the older models that are now less intelligent than the frontier models, you can download onto your laptop. They become open source. That's just the way this market works, because it's advantageous to those that open source them. And you can put that on your laptop, and then that can run the basic tasks of managing the software, and that's free. So you might still want certain tasks, like for our sales guys, when we want to synthesize emails and things like that, we want to use the best models because it's a high value task. So it's probably going to cost a bit more to run the sales application than it will to run the refurbishment management application, for example. But you're talking like maybe £50 to £100 a day in credits tops. So a staff member's salary a month today. Now, next month, the pace of improvement of these AIs means next month that cost is probably going to come down like 20%. And every 7 months, they're doubling in power. So in 7 months' time, it'd be half the cost to do the same work. So it's a cost curve reduction. The cost curve's going like that. The intelligence is going like that, which means start building now. It's going to be quite expensive. It'll cost, like, it does stack up a bit, but the upside of the application is way worth it. It's just you've got to be cautious of cash flow, because it comes out every time you run out of credits. You're then paying in cash terms to update it. But over time, the disproportionate upside you get out of that application and the efficiency gains will pay for itself and then some. And also, the more you build and the continuously you keep building, it will get cheaper and better as time goes on, like just all the time in perpetuity. So just to give an example of the costs, it's not free. It is a bit costly. It's quite costly depending on how much you're building. If you're just building a PA that you want to help you out in diarization and a bit of life management, then it's not going to cost you much at all. But if you're a business owner that's trying to build applications to enable your team and like really go into the weeds of synthesizing existing data sets you've got within CRMs and management tools and things like that, then obviously it's doing a lot of compute work, and that just costs you money. But you can offset it by using localized models, which you can just ask the bot how to do that, and it can do that, and then it will be cheaper when you're running it. So bit of tech talk there.
Can I ask a question? This is a layman question. So let's say you're building a bot to be a personal assistant. So I've gone and bought a Mac Mini, I've gone and bought a phone, I've gone and plugged this assistant into me and my system, and it's learning me, and it's now my PA, right? So it's doing like various bits and bobs that is systemized. They can easily understand with language models and basically generate the progress of my day, book diarizations, reply to emails, etc. Why can't that PA then just be a PA for the whole business? So every individual person, could a bot get overloaded?
For our reps, we've built a sales bot. We call it Sales Bow. And then we've got Ops Bow. That's a separate hardware device, separate bot with its separate intelligence set. That's doing the operational stuff. So for the sales team, they've got one bot, if you like. That bot has an overarching knowledge base of the company, what we do, the stuff we're building, how we work, how the reps work, and things like that. It's an overarching memory. It's memory.md is in the code base. But what we've done is set parameters so that it also has like a sub memory account for each of the individual reps, so that the rep itself is building the way they like working, the way they like personalizing stuff or writing emails and things like that. There is a code base that backs the way that they like doing that and improves with every interaction. So it's constantly getting better and knowing that rep based off that rep's phone number, their email, and their profile. So you can build that as a subdomain to the main knowledge base that benefits from all of this intelligence. But you can silo it so that if Neil, for example, one of our reps, likes writing emails a certain way and wants to improve the bot so that the bot's writing them in a certain way, that doesn't cross-contaminate Ash, who's another rep, who might be writing it in, who wants to write in a different kind of way. He might like to extend sentences and add a different kind of grammar in there, or he might like bold title formats, and Neil might not like that. So we've tried to silo the memory banks for each individual rep, and each individual rep only has certain permissions to access the code. Only admins can access the code and change certain things and parameters and instructions. And by doing that, you can control it in a way. But in the limit of it, let's say we had 100 reps, the compute that would cost and would cause hardware constraints on the RAM and the usage we get out of the machine. Now, you could use server cloud APIs and AIs and things like that and run like virtual machines and stuff, but it gets a little bit fiddly and complicated. But you could do that, or you can spawn sub agents, which is something our bot does do. It spawns another AI to do certain tasks. But generally, our business is too big to have one bot on a 28 gig RAM Mac Mini be able to hold all of that company information, have all those profiles, and be able to perform tasks for everyone at once, like all the times they're working on it day to day. So we have to split the bots into different hardware devices and make sure their memory bank is specialized to those tasks. Otherwise, the code just becomes massive, and you could have like 300,000 lines of code, and it's then got to search through all that code every time it's trying to perform the task for a given department. Instead, you just make it departmental. So the sales and marketing bow is focused on that, because it's always going to be trying to disseminate information and knowledge for those staff members that work in a similar vein. Then ops bow, whilst it has very similar knowledge base of the business and how it works, that's focused much more on enabling those staff members on operational activities. So that's why you kind of split them. But yes, if it's just a PA for each member, that could work. But if their workflow is quite different, then it might need a different knowledge base set, and you risk confusion in the AI and not fully understanding what one admin task is for a certain staff member compared to the nature of another admin staff. And it might get a bit complicated to do that. You might just want different bots for the departments, and then it would work.
Yeah, interesting. So robots have limitations too, essentially.
For now, but they get better and better. Mate. Every day they're getting better.
They need to get alive.
They do need to fucking
Get on
alive,
with it.
mate. Literally, get alive.